Well, in English speaking exams, students usually face a couple of problems, and these problems make their communication difficult, and as a result, they don't get their required band score. For instance, in ELTS speaking, or in language search speaking, or even in Oxford speaking, most of the time students give short answers and examiners expect from them long, detailed responses. So if your answers are short, it is guaranteed that your Oxford ELLT speaking exam will be failed, or you will not get good grades. So let's talk about the Oxford speaking part 4 exam. In this part of the exam, the examiner will ask you generic questions, or the topics will be also more general, right? So it's a kind of interactive part where you need to interact with the examiner. And students don't interact with the examiner. They just consider it as a kind of interview, which is bad, right? So in order to pass the exam, you need to use functions to organize your sentences, right? Habib, are you getting me? Like most of the time, students answer the question in speaking part 4, but they don't speak in an organized way. Their communication is not coherent. It is disorganized. It's not logical. So this is the first step that you need to keep in mind when you are going to answer the questions in Oxford Speaking Part 4. So you need to use a functional language to organize your ideas. And number 2, stop repeating yourself. Like most of the time, students in the Oxford Speaking Part 4 try to repeat themselves again and again and again. And number 3, you need to understand the nature of questions, the types of questions that you can get in this part of the exam. So the questions are again familiar. We'll be talking about that in another class. So there are 4 types of questions that the examiners in the Oxford Speaking ask from. Each of these questions has a specific function. If you know the nature of the question, if you know the purpose of the question, if you understand the question, you can easily answer the question, and you can convince the examiner that your answer is logical, and you can develop your answer, and also you can sound more confident while answering these questions. And number 4, you don't need to repeat the question. Like most of the time, when students answer the question, they try to include the question of the examiner in their answer, which is again not a good idea, or which is not very good habit. So these are the 4 tips, and let me discuss these tips in detail. Like the first tip that you need to keep in mind is that you must use functions to organize your ideas, right? And in English, there are 12 functions in total, but you don't need to use all these functions in your language. You just need to focus on 4 to 5 functions in order to make your answer more logical. And these functions are opinion, reason, example, condition, and summary. So the examiner asks you a question like, do you think we should plant more trees? So let me give you a model answer, and look at the function words, look at the words how I make my answer more organized because I am using these words, and also I am extending my answer. It will not be difficult for me to speak for 15 to 20 minutes, seconds, or 20 to 25 seconds, right? Well, do you think that we should plant more trees? Well, I think that we should plant more and more trees. This is because trees can keep the environment clean. For example, trees produce oxygen and absorb carbon dioxide. If we plant more and more trees, our environment will not only be clean, but also it will be beautiful. So, in my opinion, we should plant more trees. If you look at this answer, so the answer is organized, it is extended enough, it is a detailed answer, and it shows my language skills to the examiner, because in this part of the exam, the examiner tests your discussion language skills, right? This is all about discussion language. So we'll be talking about discussion language, we'll be talking about the types of questions that you can get in this part of the exam, and also we'll be talking about how you can sound more natural, more direct, so that you don't repeat the question of the examiner. Then you need to know that every sentence that you use in the speaking part, in this last part of the exam, must have a function. We know that sentences have functions. Like when you give your opinion about something, so you say, well, I think that the function of this sentence is that you are giving your opinion. Or you can say, well, in my opinion, well, I reckon, as far as I understand, as far as I am concerned. So these kinds of words show the examiner that the candidates understand the features of discussion language. And when you give opinion, you need to support that with reason. And every time you give reason, you say this is because, or the reason for this is, or this is due to the fact that. So, yeah,